boys, girls, and NBs. Hello, I'm Morgan.
Hello.
My pronouns are they, them, and I'm joined by my lovely partner.
Hello, I'm Declan. My partners are my pronouns are he, him, and today we're here with another lovely episode of Sword and Stoned. So get your joints ready, your lighters ready, grab some munchies. I don't know, this one's gonna be a good one. It's the Crusades. If you just finished listening to the prologue of the Crusades, we are about to pick up right where we finished, basically. So why don't we hop on into this and figure out how many people are going to die for Jesus?
So many people die for Jesus. So yeah, today we're getting into the beginning of the First Crusade, specifically the People's Crusade of 1096. So we had a prologue, as Declan mentioned. So go listen to that. If you don't want to, the rundown is Christianity is split between Eastern and Western beliefs, each one believing the other one to be heretical. Roman Empire is now the Byzantine Empire. They've lost huge amounts of territory and money to the different Muslim caliphates, the Seljuk Turks, and even the Normans. The Christian Holy Lands of Syria and Palestine had changed hands so many times, but were mostly under Muslim rule, which was relatively stable. That said, pilgrims still traveled lots, spending fat stacks all along the way. The more disruption in a territory, the less pilgrims and trade, though.
Yeah, so TLDR... Yeah, a lot of shit went down in that prologue. We even had to gloss over a whole lot of it. But yeah, you kind of get it. You kind of get what's going on here. East versus West, faith versus faith. And a whole lot of people are going on pilgrim.
Yep. So,
Pilgrimage.
Pilgrimage.
Yeah, not pilgrim.
They are pilgrims.
Hello there, pilgrim.
Hey,
I'm John
pilgrim.
Wayne, pilgrim. Welcome to my show, pilgrim.
Pilgrim. So originally, fighting in wars didn't give a person glory, neither did dying in those wars. It started to change when Byzantine rulers started declaring religious wars to take back lands from the Muslim occupiers. It was really embraced in the West with the rise of Charlemagne. The code of chivalry was beginning to form. So originally based on societal expectations of nobles, which really boiled down to being pious and wise. Chivalry is the anglicized version of chevalerie, or better, horse dudes.
What?
Horse dudes. So horses were usually only owned by nobles as they were very expensive to buy and maintain.
Understandable. So because of that, then... So what language is that? Chivalry? Is it?
French.
French. Okay, so just a whole bunch of French dudes with money. And then came up with a word for themselves because they could ride around on their fancy horses. And now somehow word is then translated into chivalry?
Yep.
Man. Tips fedora.
Tips fedora. Tip, me lady. Well, the Romans also had a class that was dedicated just to horse owners called the equestrian class. Because same thing, if you had horses, that meant you were rich.
So, okay, hypothetically, I'm thinking of, that annoying horse girl when you were growing up. They had that in Rome, in ancient Rome.
Yep, horse girls.
Horse girls have existed forever. Just remember that.
The Romans were all horse girls. Going clippity-clop and going, nay!
Horse girl party.
Pink Pony Club.
yeah, essentially. Oh my God, maybe she was trying to tell us something.
She's trying to tell us something about the equestrian class.
About the Romans. Okay, new conspiracy theory.
New conspiracy theory drops with us.
New conspiracy theory. Oh man, Chapel Roan is actually trying to teach us about ancient Rome.
Crazy.
See, Chapel Roan? You say it fast enough, Chapel Roan?
Chapel Roan, chivalry.
I don't know, back to whatever we're talking about.
So yeah, the nobles were held to a high social standard, and they have horses. So they were the most militarily trained, and over time they got really glorified through song and verse, because a lot of the nobles were adventuring and pillaging. Codified chivalric junk only really began to be, codified in 1170, like right before the First Crusade.
Okay, all right.
So, with the expectation of being a knight for Christianity and the glory and junk, Roman Catholic nobles in the West were clamoring for some holy wars. Well,
oh no. Oh no. Asthma. Asthma.
So, Roman Catholic nobles in the West were clamoring for some holy wars, while Greek Orthodox in the East were like, No thanks, we have lots of problems already. But the church kind of fucked with it and decided to try and aim their blood-hungry nobles to a cause that would directly benefit the church. Popes declared that dying in defense of the church, they would go to heaven, their sins absolved, and they would be remembered as martyrs.
Yeah, that's kind of like very similar to like Roman Catholicism too. There's a lot of like martyrs, a whole lot of shit going on there. Man, I was such a bad Catholic. I don't remember much.
That's okay. I have never ascribed to any faith, so I'm bad at all of them. When ye therefore, wow, man, I could do this better. When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation, spoken by Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place. Whoso readeth, let him understand. Matthew 24:15, King James. On a funny note, in France, there were leagues of peace, led by clergy and peasants who called for, peace. But then they started burning down so many castles and villages that they were killed by a local count.
Peaceful protest, eh?
Peaceful protest. So to be clear, the First Crusade isn't a single event, but a whole pile of wars and scrambles for perceived holy sites. Lots were Byzantine governors and dukes asking the war-loving Normans to help push Muslims out of their territory, and since it was all okie dokie by the popes, it all had the air of a holy war.
I gotta go back for a second here. Saying peaceful protests like that, I wasn't mocking protests that like turn fiery and whatnot. I'm all for it. Burn it all down. Fuck the rich. Compost the rich, man. That's what I'm here for. So like, I'm totally for burning shit down and trying to send a message.
Be the light you want to see in the world.
Exactly.
So the first real big one happened in Spain, where there were many nobles who made their names as crusading knights. A good majority of Spain was under the rule of the Umayyad Muslims till 1031, when it all broke into different warring factions. There were a couple of Christian holdouts, but special pilgrimage sites like Compostela were heavily sieged by the Muslims. In the prologue, I mentioned the Cluniacs, a sect of monks who organized and took care of a lot of pilgrims and the routes. They made a lot of money from this, so the encroaching of Muslims onto Christian pilgrimage sites was considered a very good reason for holy war. The Cluniac influence brought the Normans and the Pope's support.
So the Cluniacs were like basically extorting people along the way?
Yes. So a lot.
Yeah, okay, that tracks.
There's a lot of different groups that kind of form around the Crusades and the Crusaders who, under the guise of being holy monks or whatever, they just extort money from people or steal from them. Like, oh, I'll protect you on your way to this place. Give me all your money first.
Yeah, God needs your money.
God needs your money.
Well, God needs you to give me your money so that I can enjoy it, but in the name of God.
In the name of God.
Yes. Loopholes.
So in 1063, the king of Aragon was murdered right before an offensive attack against the Muslims.
Not Aragon!
And Europe was astir. Pope Alexander II declared indulgences, or absolvement of sins, for anyone who took up arms in defense of Christian Spain.
Oh, cool. Is this where we get, like, the indulgence chests, where you can just, like, go and pay your way into heaven?
Yeah, indulgences kind of were around for longer before this, but they're definitely heavily encouraged at this time. So, as well as this, Alexander II encouraged Christian knights to freely settle on their conquered lands. So armies formed across Europe, mostly French dudes, and they steadily streamed into Spain, taking Toledo, I'm going to say this wrong, Huesca, and finally Barbastro in 1101.
Oh, I want this piece of land.
I want this piece of land. It is Spanish, but I am French. I shall make it French.
Oh, Spanish baguette.
The Spanish baguette. So overall, it was kind of uneventful, but it really encouraged the ideal of the Holy Knight. It made people more excited and emboldened, feeling more righteous in their battle or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta have morale. You gotta amp up the boys. You gotta really feel like what you're doing it means something when you're really doing shitty stuff, right?
It's definitely a morale boost with how relatively easily they took over Spain. So,
yeah, that makes sense. I mean, You don't lose that many people. Take over another place. Yeah, that would boost the morale. All the boys would be hype.
It proves to people that you're chosen by God to do this.
That is true. That is true. It's more evidence for everybody else that is out there watching, being like, what's exactly going on here with this whole crusade thing? And then it actually probably would gather more people back at home, being like, oh, now I need to join because look at how look at God. God has blessed them on this journey. They have succeeded. This is righteous. I need to be there. Yeah,
Exactly.
I could see how that all unfolds. Plus, there ain't shit going on back then, bro. Fuck yeah, I'm going on crusade. I'll just fucking walk 700 miles and kill some people.
I will walk 500 miles to kill the heretics
And
in
the
the
Slavs.
land. So the reason why a lot of these holy knights are French is partially because they loved a good scrap, but also because the lands in the Frankish kingdoms were getting very sparse. There was this idea called primogeniture, or giving one's land to only the oldest son.
They did that a lot. They just handed shit down to the oldest son a lot.
Yeah, this is became kind of like codified in law now in the Frankish kingdoms. So there were a lot of young noblemen who didn't have any lands.
I could have had a castle.
Yeah, exactly.
Damn.
Exactly. Your older brother gets the castle and all of the lands with all of the
Shit, come on, man.
money-making farms on it. You got nothing.
Yeah. Well, not to say I want to switch times, but it'd be pretty cool. I'm the oldest. I'm the
Yeah.
oldest son.
Yep.
I want a castle.
A castle would be pretty sick, I'm not gonna lie. But, where was I here? So these young noblemen who had like no land decided to seek some fortunes elsewhere. It was kind of inevitable that they would just start going and finding their own areas. So going on these holy wars meant that they could become a martyr if they died. If they didn't, they would be absolved of all of their sins and then get a nice chunk of land out of it, probably in a very nice, temperate place that's good for growing things like olives.
Okay, question here. Were any of these guys on the Crusades adorned into sainthood at all?
I'm certain there have been. I couldn't tell you off the top of my dome.
Okay, yeah. No, that's interesting. That's something I should look up because I'm like, yeah, if they're dying martyrs, to become a saint, I think, in the Catholic religion, you have to be a martyr, die a martyr, and you have to at least have one miracle under your belt.
Yes, I believe that's the case.
Yeah, so would be interesting if one of these Crusader guys that were sent by God were actually into sainthood, considering all the horrible shit they did, you know?
I will remember that for next episode, and we'll go into that a little bit because that could be fun.
Good stuff.
Another fun little nugget of history here is called the Donation of Constantine. The donation itself was a forgery. It was said to be written by Constantine the Great, and it gave all Western domain and power to the papacy when he moved everything over to Constantinople. So it had been used since about the 8th century to strong-arm political leanings. But yeah, that's what gave the Pope the right, I guess, to claim all the territory in Spain.
And his hat.
And his hat.
You must wear the hat!
He needs his hat, his big hat, cool hat. I wonder if they did. They probably had cool hats back then.
Yo, man, the Pope has always been dripped out. He has
True.
to be, right? Think of how much money they're pulling in. He's the one that's closest to God. He commands armies. He's going to be dripped out.
100%.
It's always about the big dick swinging, right? Like, who's got the biggest dick? That's all it is. It's just a fucking contest between two men that are like, my penis is bigger than yours.
No, my penis is bigger than
that
yours.
is literally all it comes down to.
100%.
Insecurity about their penis.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Episode's over, everybody. We figured
That's
out.
basically
That's
it.
the Crusades. Nah, I'm kidding.
So Pope Gregory VII was elected in 1073. He thought himself hot shit. So when the only dude to ever send congratulations to him was the Byzantine Emperor Michael VII, Gregory was interested in the situation in the east, which wasn't great. The Turks were raiding through Anatolia, dwindling the numbers of wealthy pilgrims traveling through to Palestine. Inspired by the success of the Holy War in Spain and the power gained from it, Gregory called on Christian knights to venture into Asia Minor to aid their Byzantine brethren, led by the Pope himself, to drive out the Muslim infidel. That's the word they used, not me.
See, that's exactly what I'm talking about. The Pope is fucking leading the rebellion himself, man. You know that guy was dripped out. You know he had like a big ass carriage. You know he was probably. Have you ever seen the movie 300? In the movie 300, they have a depiction of a Xerxes being like carried in on a golden chair by slaves. Like there's slaves underneath him carrying it. And it's like you have people moving you, like literally. I can see the Pope somewhat similar to that situation as he's going into battle. Just come on for Jesus.
Oh, Jesus. But he never did actually get around to doing it.
Oh.
So I don't think he actually even got anywhere with building the army, but he did set the tone for the next while, especially as relations between the East and West got colder. The next... Sorry, go ahead.
So it's literally just a Cold War. Like, at
Yeah.
this point, it's just like I said, one guy saying his dick's bigger than the others. Like, and now it's the Pope doing it? Oh, man, I thought the Pope was better than this.
No, the Pope is not better than this at all. Not throughout history, like at all, ever.
The last one was pretty cool. Rest in peace, dog.
Yeah, he was all right. So the next few emperors even got excommunicated at some point. There was even an anti-pope for a time. It's a really messy situation, and it's too much to get into. But eventually he died, and his bones were tossed in the river.
Oh, my God. I'm just picturing, like, Marvel Avengers scene of Pope versus anti-Pope. Like, come on, can't you just see the most villainous anti-Pope? It's like everything the Pope does, he's opposite of. So like, the Pope has a big hat, he's got no hat at all.
No
Pope's
hat.
got drippy robes, he's just got like short tunic.
Probably exactly it, too.
Fantastic.
So, yeah, it was a really messy situation. The Pope died and his bones were tossed into a river. Relations between the East and West were eventually patched by Pope Urban II. The ecclesiastical councils essentially became the Supreme Court, handling all sorts of issues from theology to adulterous rulers.
So they cared so little about him, they throw his bones into the river, or was it like some significant meaning?
Yeah, there is some significance in your bones being thrown into a river. It happened quite often in like Rome or in Greece. I don't remember specifics, but there was like some politicians in Rome who were thrown into the Tiber River because it's like a sign of, I don't know, you're worse than shit if you go in the river.
Oh.
There could also be a connection to the river and bodies of water. Any body of water is inherently connected to the river Styx, which is, the pathway you have to cross it to get to the underworld. So there's usually something to do with that. So
Makes sense. What's that one? Like, when I die, give me the fucking funeral, that like Mongolian funeral where they like put your carcass out and just let the vultures eat you on the side of the mountain.
Oh, yeah, a sky burial.
Yeah, give me one of those.
This is really cool, honestly. So, at one of these councils, the issue of defense and the plight of Eastern Christians were discussed at length. But at this point, the papacy had an obligation to keep his knights from quarreling with each other, and so he aimed to aim their frustrations at the non-believers.
Yeah, like, why are we fighting when we could be fighting that guy?
Exactly.
Like, let's just team up and fight that guy. There's always somebody who does that, man. Those rats. They're just like, man, it's a waste of time. Let's join up.
So Pope Urban II was very impressed by the calls to action, and he began to think of another holy war. In his travels through France, Urban heard about how the pilgrims in the Holy Land were essentially blocked from entering, and he began making pals with the rich and powerful dudes like Raymond St. Gilles, or Raymond of Toulouse, who was a hero of the Spanish Holy Wars. And this is where I'm going to let Declan talk about this guy.
Okay, so hero could be taken with a grain of salt there. This Raymond of Toulouse, so we're already in the 11th century. The Pope Urban II has just called for the First Crusade, and Raymond, bless his ambitious little heart here, jumps on the bandwagon. He's one of the first major nobles to sign up. He's rich as hell. He's old, and he's extremely pious. Like, extremely pious. He genuinely thinks that he's on a divine mission from God. So when you realize that this man has zero tactical skills or experience or chill, that becomes even less cool. But yeah, Raymond himself brought with him a huge army. Unlike the other Crusader leaders, he insisted on dragging a papal legate along. So basically, it's a holy referee. Why? Because this dude wanted to prove that he was God's favorite. So right off the bat, he rubs everybody the wrong way. He refuses to swear allegiance to Emperor Alexios I in Constantinople. So unlike the other Crusader leaders, Raymond basically plays the I answer to God and not you card. So that goes over as well as you could expect. So this guy's just a huge asshole. He's just a huge asshole. This is why I wanted to cover him, because I find him fascinating. Once in Anatolia, he gets involved in the siege of Nicaea. And while others are fighting and negotiating with the Byzantines, Raymond is off, jerking. Yeah, he's not jerking it. He's sulking. He's sulking that he wasn't included in the deal. So this guy is a bitch. He's just a little bitch boy. So we get to the siege of Antioch. And this is where rich men send the poor men into their inevitable death. Raymond, thinking that he's super hot shit, leads assaults that go nowhere. Literally nowhere at all. He keeps trying, he keeps failing. That's basically what this guy is known for throughout history, is that he could never properly lead a crusade. Any assault that he did would fail miserably, or he would, do something like, let's say, for example, he, when Antioch finally fell, and thanks mostly to Bohemond, I'm not sure if I'm spelling that or saying that correctly.
The guy's dead, it's fine.
Okay. But yeah, him and his backdoor shenanigans was the reason why they ended up winning the assault on Antioch. Raymond insists that he should be in charge of the city, and Bohemond tells him to go fuck himself. So, what does Raymond do? He throws a tantrum, and then he occupies a nearby palace just outside of the city walls. Like a medieval, Airbnb protest. He's just sitting there outside the walls. Just think of that, just every single day, yelling. Old man yelling at the wall.
Get off my lawn.
Yeah, basically like that, but, to the extreme. So yeah, for months he just squats. He refuses to leave, and he's pretending like he's not absolutely pissed off and fuming that this guy won, right? So it's like a bad divorce, but it's with more chainmail and disease. If you want to picture what that's like, just two guys fighting bitterly at each other. One has a nicer place than the other, and yeah. It's pretty good. So Raymond ended up spending his final years trying and failing to carve out his own Crusader state in Tripoli. But he built a fort at Mount Pilgrim, and he settles in and dies in 1105 before capturing the city. That, can't lead an assault at all. I can cut that. So, how did he die exactly? According to some sources, it wasn't from fever. Others say it was an infection, possibly from wounds. Either way, that's not the exact blaze of glory that you want if you think you're God's chosen one. But you got to give it to this guy. Realistically, he died doing what he loved, and I guess that's all I want out of life. But I find him absolutely fascinating. To have the sheer determination, being like, I'm sent from God, and fail every single time.
Every time.
Every single time. And the only reason why he was in the position he was in was because he was rich.
Yeah. And he really sets the theme for all of the next happenings that are going to happen.
Fantastical.
So back in Claremont, the Duchy of Aquitaine, Pope Urban announced that he would make a great declaration on November 27th of 1095, after a series of councils. The gathered crowds were so huge that the papal throne had to be set up in a field. While we don't know exactly what he said, chronicles do exist from those who claim to have been there.
Show me your titties. That's it. I hereby declare I want to see tits.
Just everybody okay. So Urban expressed the plight of Eastern Christianity, the terror of the Turkish invaders, and the importance of Jerusalem to the holy cause. Gondor called for aid.
Yeah, really? Yeah, let's go.
Let's go.
Like the beacons.
Quote, let Western Christendom march to the rescue of the East. Rich and poor alike should go. They should leave off slaying each other and fight instead a righteous war, doing the work of God. And God shall lead them. For those that died in battle, there would be absolution and the remission of sins. There must be no delay. Let them be ready to set out with God to be their guide. Unquote.
bunch of these guys end up at the gates. St. Peter's there, reading over. You realize he killed 12 children, right? Yeah, you're not getting into heaven, man.
I just because one dude, I don't know, it just makes no sense. One dude says that you can be absolved of all of your sins. And let me tell you, some of the sins that these people are absolved of are heinous.
Yeah, I mean, with the Catholic Church, what I remember being told, like, you will be absolved of anything, as long as you go and you say sorry for it to the priest, and you really, truly, in your heart, mean it. Jesus will accept you. Like that is what I've heard, and to me, that's just a really, really lame Deus Ex Machina. Like,
Yeah,
get out of jail free card.
it's
Like,
a nice sentiment, but not really realistic.
no, not at all. Oh man.
So I'm going to take a moment here to address the phrase Deus Vult, or as written in the Gesta Francorum, Deus le Vult, or God wills it. This is commonly associated with the Crusades as battle cries and such. It is deeply unfortunate, but very unsurprising, that extreme far-right and white supremacist movements today have used the phrase in order to invoke a sense of holy righteousness and to allow their racist garbage. It perpetuates the myth of the pure white European savior of Christianity, and to be clear, this erases the complex history of early medieval Europe and its very diverse population. Watch out for anyone with the phrase Deus Vult on them. Not only is it historically inaccurate, it's dangerous, and they're scum. Don't entertain those fuckwads. Push them off their platform and laugh at them for being wrong.
Bigots, man. They're proving constantly and every day that ignorance is a lifestyle choice.
Real. So easy to actually look up the real actual events. Anyway, so Pope Urban had stirred up the masses and needed to stir up some more of the nobles because they had to fund his holy war. So nobles like Raymond of Toulouse poured their wealth and influence into the effort. Members of the expedition had to wear a red cross stitched onto their surcoats, a symbol to their vow to go to Jerusalem. That made me think kind of the, what do you call it? The little like wax seals on Astartes.
I can't think of it off the top of my head.
That's okay. So, if a person had failed or turned back, they suffered excommunication, to the pious is a fate worse than death. The masses were given a year to gather their harvests, leave all of their worldly possessions to the church, and assemble at Constantinople. Urban chose... Oh, go ahead.
Oh my God, they are purity seals. The purity seals, it's like they write down basically like their vows and their mission and everything like that and their prayers, and they put it on their body, and then they go into war wearing it.
Yes,
yeah, purity
basically
seals.
the same thing. So, yeah. So Pope Urban chose Ademar de Monteo, Bishop of Le Puy, to lead the expedition. He was joined by Count Raymond of Toulouse, who saw himself as a Moses figure, as we kind of talked about, though he wasn't ordained as such.
Yeah, he really thought he was Moses or like some sort of hot shit. He just Raymond of Toulouse. What a boy.
So Urban and Raymond then traveled across Europe through Italy, preaching the Holy War. They sent legates and diplomats to the nobles of the cities asking for aid. From as far afield as Scotland, Denmark, Spain, and Italy, men hastened to make their vows, unquote. Many noblemen relinquished their possessions to the church or sold it all off to fund their march.
One thing I was reading about Raymond of Toulouse when he was going into war, when they were going on their pilgrimage, let's say he would be attacked by the Slavs, and then he would take them prisoner, and then torture them and present them like as they were walking, like almost on like a banister or something. Oof. Like you could imagine what it is. I'm assuming like, a head on a stick or like, but they're still alive apparently. And the reason was he wanted to send the messages to the other Slavs that were coming like, hey, we will kill you and fuck you up unless you like agree with us. So yeah, Raymond of Toulouse is not a good guy at all. That's why I brought him up. He was just the constant piece of shit that always failed at what he did.
So Pope Urban had unknowingly launched a movement far larger than he anticipated. Not only
How large was it?
real large. So not only nobles, but the peasantry were whipped into a frenzy by evangelical preachers, such as the infamous Peter the Hermit. Described as having a face horribly like his donkey, stinking terribly, which by medieval standards I cannot even imagine, eating nothing but fish and wine. He had sort of the Rasputin sort of the time.
Addressing people today in modern times with their first and last name is so fucking lame. Why can't we go back to being like Morgan of the Evershire or something,
That'd be sick.
Like titles. I miss titles. Bring back titles.
It would be sick, honestly. It's like I'm Morgan the Rotund. Or, so described. Oh yeah, I already went over that.
Declan the Hopeless.
So Peter preached his way through France and Germany, riling up thousands of masses who left their homes to follow him. His extraordinary success is attributed to the very grim conditions of the European peasant.
Yeah, I mean, if so, his success over peasants, you're saying? Like, oh yeah, no, of course, he's fucking them up, bro.
Yeah, he was very successful. He was very successful in gaining the support of the peasants because they already had such a shit time.
Yeah, exactly. I guess by fucking them up, I meant like fucking up their whole head. You come in, you're like, oh, everything is shitty. This guy's going to offer me this. Yeah, I'm on board.
Exactly. They felt enlightened that they could do something about their lot in life. So barbarian and Norse raids had razed much of the viable farmland. Irrigation had been fucked. Outlaws and squabbling soldiers made it dangerous to even be in one's village. Floods, pestilence, famine, even meteorites lighting up the night skies all spelled apocalypse. So while whole families picked up to journey with Peter to Constantinople rather than live in the garbage hole they were currently living in.
Yeah, when you have the constant threat of looming death, and your life is shit and you got nothing, I would join up with Peter to Constantinople.
So basically the vibe was, the end is nigh, and thou must repent while there is time. Join Peter to the promised land of milk and honey. Put down the legions of the Antichrist, and take back Jerusalem ere Christ returns.
Aw, it was the first end of the world death cult. That's so cool, bro. You tell me. Yeah. Hold up. What's that guy's name? Chad Daybell is no different than this motherfucker.
No, absolutely.
In the way that they think.
I'd say, like we even said about Munster, kind of a Jim Jones type.
Yeah. Exactly. It's interesting how, like, this is history, but it can kind of tie in with modern and, like, other people. History repeats itself, I guess.
History is, what is it? It doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes. I can't remember the actual phrase. But yeah, so Pope Urban was very confident that the hordes of the lay people now traveling east would safely reach Constantinople and wait there to be incorporated into the orderly Christian army. He was also quite confident that the Byzantine Emperor Alexius would welcome the masses, as of course he had been the one to request aid. Alexius at the time had been enjoying some relative stability for once, when he got word that, quote, all the West and all the barbarian tribes from beyond the Adriatic, as far as the Pillars of Hercules, Gibraltar, were moving in a body through Europe towards Asia, bringing whole families with them, unquote.
It's just like when you're in Civ and you get a really bad starting location and there's barbarians everywhere.
Exactly.
Oh, no.
So to the Byzantines, the oncoming western horde seemed like a swarm of locusts on the horizon. Alexios began to prepare. Stores of provisions were gathered, special police forces were assigned to accompany every group that entered the empire, and the navy would watch all the coasts. All of this to keep the oncoming crusaders from ravaging the farmlands and towns along the way to Constantinople. Most armies relied on taking supplies and goods from the lands they came through. This could often turn violent.
Yeah, no doubt.
So it's important to note that a lot of these travelers all through France and Germany used the opportunity to massacre Jewish communities along the way.
Oh, man, that was a fucking curveball I did not see coming. Thank you. Oh, man.
Just always assume that if the Christians are on, like, if they're hell-bent on blood, they will murder Jews.
They'll murder anybody.
Yeah, they will.
As we will find out.
Yeah, you'll learn they'll murder fellow Christians with no problem. So Alexius believed he had until August 1096, going by the Pope's timeline, but was surprised in May by the news that a Frankish army led by Walter sans Avois had come through Hungary and into the empire. Wholly unprepared, and with harvest season quite a while off, the officials of the border cities Semlin and Belgrade had no idea what to do about Walter's army. With nothing prepared, the army pillaged the countryside. The local commanders took up arms against them, capturing a few and burning them in a church, or nailing their corpses to the walls.
God damn.
Brutal.
Like, I just... man, to be in the middle of a war and see somebody that's, like, half dead or dying, and to be like, oh, I'm gonna nail him to a wall. Like, who the fuck kind of monster mind thinks in the middle of a war to just grab a guy and nail him to a wall?
Yeah, the practice was, it was very commonly practiced across Europe, I believe well into the 1800s, of putting criminals up to...
Oh, yeah, crucifixion was huge.
Yeah, but like, of it, putting people in like little cages or sticking their heads on spikes.
That too.
So Walter continued on regardless, finally meeting the governor of Niš, who successfully fed the army and kept them occupied for a time before sending them under supervision to Constantinople. Word soon got around that Peter the Hermit was not far behind, with nearly 20,000 people.
How did Peter the Hermit gather 20,000 people? That is the Hermit?
Religious fervor.
The guy...
Oh, yeah, hermit.
Right? The hermit,
he's supposed to be... Ooh.
Supposed to be, like, at home doing nothing. Out in the forest by himself.
Sitting in a cave.
Yeah, what the fuck?
That's the dream life. I want to live like a frog.
But 20,000 people. Wow.
That's a lot of people. So Peter was on his faithful donkey, surrounded by knights on horseback, wagons laden with provisions, whole families traveled with professionals and sex workers.
Wait, he rode an ass into battle?
Yeah, he rode an ass.
He rode a donkey into battle. Okay, this guy, I gotta look this guy up. This guy sounds amazing.
Yeah, he was known for riding on a donkey everywhere. So they all passed through Hungary relatively peacefully. So reaching Semlin, however, the mood soured. Peter's army had heard of the indignities suffered by Walter and his army, and were now faced by the desiccated bodies of their fellows still nailed to the city walls. Naturally, it's said that a riot was started over a pair of shoes, which I'd say is quite possible because a lot of these people probably would have walked through their shoes, and many may have been barefoot.
And you showed me a picture of those shoes from that time. If you can, like, I'm encouraging you, the listener, to go and Google shoes from the First Crusade. Some of those shoes are pretty fancy, man. I can see why they started a riot over it.
Some of them would definitely be fancy or, quite plain leather, but you'd walk through that pretty fast.
Yeah, no, definitely need to. Oh my God, I'm just thinking of Kingdom Come Deliverance.
Yep, me too. I kind of want to play it now.
Yeah.
So, led by Geoffrey Burrell, a headstrong commander, the army stormed the town, killing thousands and capturing provisions. Terrified of vengeance, they scampered along to the nearest river, tearing buildings apart to make rafts along the way. The governor across the river of Belgrade was desperately trying to control the masses of the people coming over the river. So when he couldn't, he ran off to Niš, and many of the residents evacuated Belgrade behind him. The empty city was set alight and pillaged by Peter's hordes. Finally, in Niš, there was a semblance of order, with a large garrison stationed there. Provisions were given in exchange for some noble captives. Some gave alms to the poorest crusaders, others even joined the ranks. All seemed well until the next day. Quarrels broke out, fires were set, and hostages were captured on either side. Peter the Hermit tried his best to reason with the local governor, but his unruly masses kept causing fights, so the governor set up his forces upon the crusaders. Those who weren't killed scattered to the winds.
Yeah, 20,000 people is a lot to babysit. I mean, it's like those fucking Twitch streamers that we see.
Oh, no.
Like, just trying to babysit 20,000 people at once. Of course there's going to be infighting.
Absolutely. So somehow, I don't know, divine providence or idiot's luck, Peter and like 2/3 of the original dudes survived all of this, and despite losing all of their money and provisions, they continued eastward. So I don't know why, probably out of fear, but the remaining crusaders were warmly welcomed by the escort coming from Constantinople that met them at Sophia in July.
what I don't understand is how these dudes are so fucking determined. Like, how are they so determined to get this done when they've got nothing, loss after loss after loss, and they still push on? Man, I need that determination.
It gets worse.
Oh, damn. Okay.
So, where am I? Locals gave them alms, horses, donkeys, and food. A message even came from Emperor Alexius that the Crusaders were absolved of their pillaging, burning, and murder of fellow Christians. How sweet of him. So the Crusaders reached Constantinople soon after, but while Alexios and Peter met and talked, the Westerners were busy breaking into palaces and villas, even peeling the lead roofing off of buildings. It was in Alexius's best interest to send the horde on their way, though he fully believed that they would all be killed by the Turks. He did impress on Peter to try and wait for the rest of the crusading armies to rendezvous at Civitate nearby.
Man, the pulling the lead off the roofs just reminds me of, like, pulling copper wires out of shit. It's just same vibe.
Quite possible. I mean, it was a very common metal, but it was also a very useful metal, so I don't see why people wouldn't have taken it for repurposing or even selling.
Exactly. Same thing with copper.
Exactly. So various bands of other pilgrims and Walter's army were already meeting up at Civitate. They kept busy looting the coastline and quarreling with each other. Alliances broke and formed, weaning power away from Peter. The French, under Geoffrey Burel, raided all the way to Nicaea, the capital of the Seljuk Turks. They sacked the villages in the suburbs, rounding up flocks and herds that they found, torturing and massacring the Christian inhabitants savagely. The French returned to Civitate, laden with stolen goods and riches. Reynold of Broyes and the Germans were so jealous that they set out on their own raids. Reynold led 6,000 into Turkish lands, marching further than Nicaea, thankfully not massacring the Christians at least, and captured the castle of, I am going to mess this up, Zerigordon with little resistance.
So let me get this straight. I'm a little confused here. So these guys themselves are crusaders.
Yes.
And they're killing other crusaders?
They're killing Christians. They're killing,
but why? They're Christian themselves.
Probably because they're in the way, or they don't, or they can...
They're not Christian enough?
They're not Christian enough. Maybe they believe a different sect of Christianity.
God damn, bro.
Yeah.
The infighting is unreal.
It's insane. It's so stupid.
Yeah. No, see, I mean, religion. You need it in your life to be a good person. And then, meanwhile, all these good people are committing absolute atrocities.
It's insane. I don't get it. I can't wrap my head around it. So, the castle of Zerigordon was well stocked and built high on a hill, so the castle seemed like it would make for a great center to continuing raids into the countryside. However, its source of water was outside of the walls and easy for the Turks to capture. The Crusaders were terrified of the speed of the well-equipped mounted archers who rained arrows down on them constantly. They could do little against the siege. After 8 days of thirst, the Crusaders, quote, were in such distress from thirst that they bled their horses and asses and drank the blood. Some urinated into one another's hollowed hands and drank, unquote. Gross.
Oh, and those are some Dune vibes now. Like, yeah, these all guys. It just made me think of Dune. I don't know. The fact that they're, like, taking donkey blood and, like everyone's blood and transferring it into water. Or, like, drinking it, hoping that it's water. That's crazy.
It is crazy. It's quite disgusting. So Reynold...
I mean, you have to do what you have to do when you survive. Like,
True.
Want to survive, though.
Well, it's not so great when the Seljuk Turks catch you. But so Reynold surrendered, declaring he would convert to Islam if he was spared. He was captured, and those that converted were sold into slavery, and the rest were slaughtered. Emboldened, the Sultan Kilij Arslan ibn Suleiman directed his forces to advance on the gathering Crusaders at Civitate. Back at Civitate, apparently 2 spies had set out a rumor that German Crusaders had not only captured Zerigordon, but Nicaea itself, and were swimming in loot for the holy cause. Excitement rose until the news broke of the failure at Zerigordon, and panic finally spread. Some wanted to avenge the fall, but were encouraged to wait until the return of Peter the Hermit, who had gone to Constantinople for provisions. He did not return, but word did come of a Turkish army on their way.
So Peter's like, I'll get some food and stuff. You guys will be all good. Don't worry about it. Meanwhile, these guys are just starving. They're slowly dying, and they have Turks coming to absolutely slap their booty.
Dad went to go get some cigarettes and he never came back.
Dad, where are you?
Dad, the Turks are coming to my house.
Dad, the Turkish are coming.
So most of the noble leaders agreed to wait for Peter, but Geoffrey Burrell felt it would be cowardly not to meet the force head on. The army agreed with him. So on the dawn of the 21st of October, Geoffrey led 20,000 crusaders out to meet the Turks, leaving behind their women, children, and elderly. Unbeknownst to them, the Turks lay in wait. The crusaders lumbered noisily along for a few miles, led by knights on horseback. Near the village of Drakon, the road led into a narrow and heavily wooded valley. Arrows burst from the trees, sending the crusaders into a panic.
The trees, man.
So the crusaders were flung into a panic. Men were flung from their horses, and those not immediately killed or trampled fled back to Kivitot with the Turks hot on their heels. It was early morning when the fleeing crusaders and the angry Turks burst into the camps at Kivitot. The weak and the old, men, women, and children were slaughtered. Any who survived were sold into slavery.
Turkish power, baby. No, that's absolutely insane to me. But come on, man. Like, this is what I mean. Everybody who did these crusades had absolutely no strategy.
None.
I was talking about this earlier. There is no strategic. Like, think about how simple that is. They're like, oh, I see that there's a narrow passage here, and
let's go through that.
A wooded area.
Definitely doesn't look like there would be an
doesn't
ambush.
look like it would be an ambush here, yeah.
No.
No, we're definitely safe here. Nobody would think to ambush us. They would meet us head on.
It's honestly like a lot of these crusaders didn't have much for military training, whereas the Seljuk Turks did. They were like trained from like youth to be quite capable warriors.
Yeah, and a lot of these crusaders were just rich guys who wanted to buy their way into heaven.
Or peasants.
And also wanted to experience like, ooh, fighting for God. You know, like you want to experience something different than the life they're living. But still, that's absolutely ridiculous. You think you're going to be able to take on a full army of people that have actually trained. It's like those people that watch MMA fighters and stuff, and they're like, oh, come on, man, I could do that. And then there's levels to this.
So after all that Kivitot, there was only a few thousand of the crusaders who were left, and they fled to hold an old castle, which they fortified out of desperation, and they managed to keep it for a time. More than half of the nobles were dead. Of note, Geoffrey Burrell did survive, quote, whose impetuousness caused the disaster, unquote, though he was badly wounded. By evening, word had reached Peter and Alexios about the defeat, and they had quickly scrambled ships with men-at-arms to set sail. Upon their arrival, the Turks fled their siege of the castle and left the survivors to be taken back to Constantinople. Their arms were taken from them, and they were given homes in the suburbs. Quote, with that, the People's Crusade was over, unquote. Thousands had died. Christians were slaughtered by other Christians, lands pillaged and razed. People shat themselves to death before they even got to the Byzantine border. The book I read didn't really go into it, but it's absolutely guaranteed that so many people died from crazy diseases and parasites. The survivors... Oh, go ahead.
Oh, yeah, no, the crazy disease and parasites alone probably killed thousands and thousands, but then just the slaughter and the pillaging and the rape and the murder and, man, all in the name of God. What a fucking beautiful thing religion is.
I know, right? I also kind of wanted to note, because I thought that was really interesting, it's very hard to track where some diseases came from or where they ended up at this time, because there was so much movement before and after that it's very difficult to tell if somebody came to a place carrying the disease or if they caught it in that place and then died another place. The only thing we really know for sure are things like specific bacteria or parasites found in cesspits and latrines, because that's the best place to look for that kind of stuff.
What are those people called that like actually want to infect other people with like STDs and stuff?
Oh,
you know?
God, I have no idea.
Oh, there's like a name for can't think of the name for it right now, but I'm just picturing one guy back then who's like he's like a bug hunter or something. It's like something like that, where he has all the diseases and he's like, I'm trying to spread it.
Oh God, I'm trying to spread it. So the survivors eventually regrouped in Constantinople. Many went on to join the Prince's Crusade, which we will get to next episode.
Woo!
Yeah! Here's a bibliography. Stephen Runciman, History of the Crusades. David Crouch, The Birth of Nobility, Constructing Aristocracy in England and France, 900 to 1300. David Crouch again, The Chivalric Turn, Conduct and Hegemony in Europe before 1300. Jean Fleury, La Chevalerie. Dorothy Kim, The Alt-Right and Medieval Religions. Crécy August, The First Crusade, The Accounts of Eyewitnesses and Participants. Haha!
Oh, I guess I should cite Wikipedia. I don't know. That's what I use to look up Raymond.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, cool. Well, this was the First Crusade. And oh boy, are there lots more to come.
So much more. So many horrible things to come.
I'm not sure if we're going to break down every single crusade, but the
I mean,
Prince's
I'm
Crusade,
down.
that could be something. We definitely would like to get some feedback and see what people think as well, because that'd be cool. But yeah, we got lots. We got lots coming for you. So thanks for listening to Sword and Stoned. And
Thank you.
we will get you another day.
Stay fresh, cheese bags.
Stay fresh, cheese bags.